Here we go. Here we
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Allison, and welcome everyone. This is our last huddle for this challenge. So, thank you to everyone, whether you joined us on one huddle or all 11. They've been great, and we've really enjoyed having you and having our guests and have them share all the great open and welcoming practices that they're doing. And Gina, thank you for joining us on all of these calls, and Wendy and Allison for the background. Tech support too. Yeah, but we can meet next week if you want to, Gina. We can keep doing with the huddle cuddles if you'd like. So while we're getting settled in, please go ahead and say hi in the chat. Let us know your name and where you're joining us from today. And as always, we will get to as many of your questions as we can. If we don't get to your questions, definitely join us on Maddie's Pet Forum to continue the conversation. Just like the rest of the huddles, we're going to have 20 minutes of presentations and then 20 minutes of Q&A. For the Q&A, you're welcome to type the questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask your questions too. Thanks, Allison, for putting the challenge group in the chat too, so folks can join us on that after the call. And great thing about Maddie's Pet Forum is it is open 24/7. So anytime you feel like popping in your questions or answering your questions to other folks, you are welcome to go ahead and join us on the forum. And hi, Jen. Thanks for joining us while you're painting too. That's great. We hope the opening of the resale shop goes well. And we've got folks from Atlanta, New Hampshire, Idaho, Titusville, Florida. That is great. Um, Perfect. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we are going to talk about creating partnerships with the community, with community organizations. And we're super excited to be joined by Jorge and Rachel. So Jorge Ortega has spent his career building, developing, and leading teams during his 20 plus years in the animal welfare field. Jorge is currently the Animal Services Director for Guilford County Animal Services in North Carolina. He has been successful in building strategic partnerships and community programs that help decrease animal intake. And Rachael Pontillo is the Coordinated Entry Assessor with Partners Ending Homelessness in Guilford County, North Carolina. Partners Ending Homelessness works with homeless clients, both humans and their pets, in the community to meet their basic needs and connect them with housing resources. So I know we've talked on this call a lot about meeting the human needs and the animal needs. So I'm really excited to hear from you, Rachel and Jorge, and talk about this partnership and the great things that you're doing for your community. Is Jorge on? Wendy or Allison, do you see him?
I don't see him, and I just called him, so I don't. So hopefully everything's okay. But maybe we'll start with Rachel, I guess.
Yeah, that will be great. Rachel, we'll have a good conversation, and when Jorge gets here, we'll let him in on it too. So, how are you doing today, Rachel?
Doing well. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, and it sounds like your organization has done some awesome things. It's something that is close to my heart personally and professionally. I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, so I'm with Partners Ending Homelessness, and we're located in Guilford County, North Carolina. And our focus is working with homeless humans. But as we all know, homeless humans also have pets. And this was actually really kind of brought to our focus within the past year. So we recently launched a street outreach program in our community that is for anybody who's homeless throughout our entire county. Sorry, y'all, give me one.
Everybody on this call knows what that's like, so you're in good company.
So our street outreach team, I am not fully street outreach. I do kind of part-time in some ways, but our street outreach team does case management with these homeless individuals in our county. And for us to work with them, with street outreach, they have to be living outside or in a car or in an abandoned building. So literally homeless by the government's definition. So this really kind of came about, I guess, when we started our street outreach team, because again, I only do it kind of part-time with my position. We hired them fully, and they're going out into the camps. They're going into the woods, under bridges. They're going everywhere. And so they're really seeing where these clients are living and trying to get to know them. The big thing about working with the homeless population is just building that rapport and building that trust. And one of the things that we've noticed is our goal with street outreach is trying to meet basic needs. If we have any snacks for food, water, clothes, and then if the client is interested, assessing them and seeing if there are any housing resources we can connect them to. But street outreach noticed that quite a few of our clients had pets with them, mainly dogs, but we do have a few clients with cats as well. So we really felt we're all animal lovers. One of our street outreach fosters, we all love animals. And we just really realized that we can't meet the humans' needs without also meeting the animals' basic needs. So we didn't really have any, extra funding or any flex money to be able to buy continuously, like dog food, cat litter, harnesses, leashes, or anything that was really needed. So the family could stay together, because that's the goal, is to be able to keep the pets together, because they're not being abused, they're not neglected. We just want to help them provide their basic needs. So we all set out one day of the week, sorry, she's chewing on my cord. We all just got together during one of our staff meetings and just took one day out of the week to call, we made a list of all the veterinarians in the community, all of the local nonprofits that work with animals in the community, and just call them, and all the pet stores to see if they could donate food or whatever else they would be able to provide. And one of my coworkers, Jessica, is actually the one who made an awesome connection with All Pets Considered, who's a local pet store in our community, and their manager works really closely with animal services. So that's how we kind of all got connected and really just thought about how can we serve all of the pets in our community, those living outside with their humans, especially in trying to reach them, not just from a basic needs perspective for us providing with water and food and stuff, but from a health perspective to make sure they have shots, making sure that they have flea and tick medication if we can get them that, because they are living outside in tents and things like that. So they're at a little bit higher risk of possibly getting that, especially if they're living in the woods. So we just all got together one day and sat down for coffee and really just had a really good conversation about what we could all do. And that's kind of how it all got started.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. And what's really interesting, Rachel, is you said you can't meet the people's needs without meeting the pets' needs. And what's so funny is time and time again on this call, we've heard the opposite. We can't meet the pets' needs without meeting the people's needs. So I think that's a really awesome way to, kind of end these huddles and bring it full circle, right? Is we're hearing from someone whose mission or focus is human services, and we are working with animal services, and to hear that those both things go together is it's really heartening, actually, I think. So you said can you talk a little bit more about that first meeting? So was that pre-COVID or post-COVID that you all
This is all been during COVID.
Wow, yeah, because you said the program's only a year old, right?
Yes, our street outreach program specifically just launched last November.
Oh, wow.
And my program, actually, Coordinated Entry, just launched last March. So everything has been within the pandemic. So yeah, we just met at a local coffee shop. Again, the awesome general manager facilitated it, and we met Jorge and Lisa and Heidi and their team, and we just had a really honest conversation about what homelessness looks like in our community. and what homelessness looks like for somebody with an animal. And that the pets aren't neglected. The pets, when we go out, are often better taken care of than the human. They take more care of the pets than they do themselves. They prioritize their pets because they love them, their family. And that's actually one of the reasons why some of them, most of them who have pets, won't go into a shelter, is because they don't want to have to separate from their pets. And rightfully so. I wouldn't want to have to leave my pet behind or anything. So we just had a really awesome conversation. And what we discovered was there's an International Homeless Animals Awareness Day.
Oh, cool.
So we formed an event around that. It was a few weeks ago. I actually got the shirt on for it now. And we all just partnered together, and we just tried to bring awareness to the community, really advocate, because people, just see these pets with their humans on the side of the road and just think, oh, that pet needs to go. Animal services needs to come out and just take that pet, when it's healthy, it's happy, it's got a stronger bond with its human than most other pets do who have homes, because they're with their humans 24/7. So we just really wanted to do an advocacy event. And so we did a Facebook Live at the pet store, where we just talked about what we do with partners and our experiences. And then they also, showcased some of the animals that were at the shelter who were needing homes, who were there for a while. And it was just a really awesome event. And then the animal services has been awesome, where if we have any clients who needed a rabies shot, they can just come to the rabies events and get them for free. So we were at the rabies events, and we had a client, and word's starting to get out. They showed us a PEH business card and the flyer for the event, and they came and got their 2 dogs rabies vaccinated for free.
That's great. And that I saw this mentioned in the chat too about Charisse mentioned it's a good example of the One Health concept. And I 100% agree with that, because we're thinking of, diseases like rabies, the spreading of fleas, spreading of ticks that can affect humans too. So having that health, again, we can't meet the animals' needs without meeting the people's needs, and vice versa. And Gina, I see you have your hand up. I want to just quickly thank Rachael for one thing she said, and then I'll totally give you the floor, Gina. But yesterday, my husband and I were having we have a long commute now, and we get to spend like an hour in the car together. We're having a really intense conversation about self-awareness and admitting a time when you were wrong. And I used the example of when I first started in animal welfare, and I was one of those people who, like you said, saw a person who needed secure housing, who didn't have access to secure housing, on the side of the road with their dog or their cat on the leash, or their cat in their shopping cart, or however their situation was, and totally was like, that cat needs to be brought into my shelter. We need to find that cat a better home, and not being aware of the bond those people have with their animals, the fact that those animals are secured and safe, that is their home. And I think it's just the realization that just because it's not the home that I have for my animal doesn't mean that it's not a safe, happy home where they are loved and cared for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for saying that. We were having a conversation not about animal welfare. It was just about people being able to admit they were wrong. But it was exactly the same point that you're making. Gina, what were you going to say? Sorry, I just wanted to thank Rachael for that.
That's okay. It's along those same veins is we often judge, correct? But the majority of people experiencing homelessness that I encountered during a year and a half of managing a human homeless shelter and all the animals was that most people in homelessness had those pets when they had homes, right? And how noble of them not to give them up, even though that might be in their best interest. Rachael, do you guys ever query people about that you assess? Did you have this pet prior? Or did you get it after you started living outside of a home?
Sometimes, sometimes they have it like you said, when they become homeless, or when they were housed. I mean, some people have been housed for years, and then, we're all 1 or 2 paychecks. Most of us are 1 or 2 paychecks away from being in the same situation in reality. So some of them have their pets before they became homeless, and then others, they obtained the pets after they became homeless. So it's kind of just, each situation's unique a little bit. Typically I'll see older dogs if they've come from or recently been housed and come into homelessness. So they're, or older pets, they're adult pets, they're not little puppies, or kittens. And then sometimes you'll see some of the younger dogs, when they are outside. So for example, and then sometimes, they'll just see them and they'll see them outside and want to try and help the best they can. So they'll, take them with them wherever they go. They'll grab a rope or whatever they can use for a leash and try and feed them. They'll see them outside. And so it just depends.
And I think the organization I volunteer with in the Bay Area is called Punks with Lunch. And there's one in the Central Valley of California too. And I think we see that as well, where people don't have housing and they meet an animal who doesn't have housing, and they form, their own bonds and families and create their own networks in their communities and the encampments and on the streets, and bring the animals into those communities too.
Yeah, they definitely do. And sometimes they do give up the animals. So, I mean, for example, a mama cat had a litter of kittens, and they just can't feed all of those kittens. I mean, kittens are especially newborn kittens, they're hard to feed. They got to pay for the can and everything. And one of our street outreach case managers, was able to take them home with her, and it was absolutely awesome because, again, she took them home. She's the one who fosters, so she was able to take them in for the night, and they called our friends at Animal Services, and they said, of course we'll come and take them, or if you're able to keep them overnight, we'll send an officer right there and we'll take care of them. So it's a really good relationship, both ways. They have the resources that we've never had. And
I love the partnership and the collaboration for sure. And speaking of collaboration and partnerships, Cherise also asks you in the chat, do you collaborate with Feeding Pets of the Homeless? Is that an organization you've worked with or you're aware of?
So I am aware of the organization. We have not partnered with them. We actually, after we did our research, after we met with Animal Services, we were just thinking so locally. We hadn't really thought about researching like that other organizations outside of like just the local ones. Really, we were just so ready. We needed like an immediate help right then and there. But I have seen them, and it's possible. We haven't reached out yet, but that's the first year we've done this. So hopefully it'll just grow and grow, and maybe we can partner with them in the future.
Yeah, you're still super young. I have another question about that, but we'll keep in mind the age of your organization. Cherise, did you want to unmute and say anything about Feeding Pets of the Homeless? Have you worked with them? Do you have anything you want to say about them?
Yeah, we have where we're located a small homeless population, and they have, pets. I see them walking all the time. And so, I pulled over one day and I met this man. I just put a comment in about, his name is Eric, and the dog named Jenny. And he rescued her from the life on a chain, and they walked here from Mississippi. Jenny is pregnant now. And so I'm going to try to help him with these puppies. So with our limited resources, because we are a brand new organization, we just started in March. I reached out to Feeding Pets of the Homeless. And, any nonprofit organization that does work with homeless folks can become a food donation site. They will provide all the food if you can pick it up, and then you take it to your site where you want to distribute the food, whether it's your organization or a partnering one. In addition to that, they will provide vet care to homeless pets, with homeless folks. And they'll send you even a pack of business cards that you can carry with you and pass out to homeless people that have pets that might need help. And then even beyond that, they will organize a vet clinic in your town if you can provide the volunteer vets. They will provide all medications, all supplies, everything that's needed if you can just find the volunteer vets. So there's a lot of things that are available there. They're really easy to get a hold of and work with. So, it could be a really great resource for a lot of folks.
That's so great. Thanks so much for sharing, Charisse. And I think I found them. Do you know if they're located in Carson City?
They are.
Okay, perfect. So I just dropped their website in the chat. So thank you for sharing your experience with them and that story of Jenny. And I mean, can you imagine walking from Mississippi to Tennessee? I mean, I live in the Bay Area, so I work a lot, right? But I can't imagine walking like across.
Yeah,
state
and I'll
lines
tell
like
you,
that.
those two have such a strong bond. I mean, and it is amazing. And I'm so happy he is gonna let us help with that litter of puppies and help her, deliver them and make sure that everybody has the vet care they need, going forward.
And that trust that you built up with him by, working with him and working with Jenny has probably led to that decision and led him to be able to, take you up on your offer and take you up on these resources.
Yeah, it took me a little while. I would just keep small bags of dog food in my car, and treats. And if I saw them, I would pull over and say, hey, I've got some food for Jenny, So it took a little while, but things like that, just little things like that, a $5 bag of dog food can go a long way in those situations.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of what Rachel was talking about too, with meeting the basic needs first, like making sure people have, food to get them through the day, clothes and sleeping stuff to get them through like another night, and then building up to more services. And Charisse, what organization are you with? I know you've been on the calls before.
Oh yeah, it's called Hands and Feet Pet Advocates. And so our focus is filling that gap where owners need help to keep their pets. And so we're trying to intervene and keep pets out of the shelters. We're not necessarily a rescue. In certain emergency cases, we will take a dog or cat in or a litter of puppies and find them homes, but that's not our main focus. We're just sitting here trying to prevent shelter intake.
Well, that is awesome. And it sounds like working boots on the ground like you're doing is going to make a big difference for that. So thank you again for sharing, Charisse.
Absolutely. Thank you for having all these huddles. They've been fabulous.
Totally my pleasure. So I see we've got Jorge joining us. Hey, Jorge, how are you? Do you want to unmute? Wait, maybe I can. Allison or Wendy, can you unmute Jorge? Well, now we've got you here and you're just going to have to pantomime everything. Oh.
He is unmuted. So he would just want to go into where it says the mute little microphone icon and set up his audio there.
All right. Well, while we're working on getting Jorge in, welcome again, Jorge. We do have some great comments in the chat. I do see Sarah. Hi, Sarah Rosenberg, and another folks who's been joining us frequently on these huddles. So nice to see you again, Sarah. Oh, there you are with your great glasses. Good morning. Good afternoon. So you mentioned another organization, which is what I'm familiar with too, called My Dog Is My Home. Have you worked with them before, or anything you want to say about My Dog Is My Home?
Sure. I learned about them last year. They held their first conference last year, and I learned about them the morning of the conference, and I was able to attend it. And it was one of those things that, like, when your world explodes, because you're like, oh my God, I didn't know that stuff. And it's like what Rachel was talking about you see people who are unhoused and they have pets, and you in the animal welfare world, my spidey senses go right to the pet and say, oh my gosh, that pet, can I offer them pet food, or, do you need help? And what I learned so much from that conference, but one of the big things I learned is that human animal bond is critical for, I mean, I know it's critical for my survival in my day-to-day, in my house, in my traditional kind of life. For people who are living against the odds, those relationships they're their primary relationships and maybe their only ones. And it's critical to their survival to have those relationships and have those animals with them. And so to see these bonds create units and to deal with that's a family unit, and to be trauma informed when dealing with people who are living in traumatic and crisis situations. So all that to say, My Dog Is My Home is very focused on, they have a lot of folks in their organization on their board who are working in human animal bond research, like the folks in Denver, the name of the university that I can't remember, but there's a whole university.
Sorry, Sarah, I'm just going to interrupt you real quick. It sounds like someone's not muted and there's maybe like your call or your speaker is going off in the background. So, okay, cool. Sorry, Sarah. So you're talking about Colorado.
Yeah, there's a university in Colorado that does extensive research and work in the human animal bond. And somebody truly on this call knows the name of it, but I can't pull it out of my head. There are folks who work directly with My Dog Is My Home who are involved with that university. They do a lot of research. They have a lot of partners, and their focus is on mental health, human health, One Health, IHAC. What are the, Irene is giving me an idea, but what's it called? What are the words to it? Because my acronyms are, yeah, Institute of Human Animal Connection. Thank you. Thanks, Melina.
Thanks, Melina.
So yes, that's it. And so the organization is made up of a number of people who are all volunteers on their board, and they're very holistic and they're very attuned to co-sheltering, the ideas of co-sheltering, and making sure that wherever there are shelters for people, that there's room for their pets as well, and attuning to that unit as a family. So that's, Gloria's sending me something too. It is, what's unacronymic, Gloria? Because I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry, I don't mean to take up too much space, but
no, this is great. And you're getting, some of the Maddie's Fun team has attended the My Dog Is My Home conference too. So we definitely support their efforts, and it's a good conference too.
And notably, they've just set the date for their next conference for March of 2022. And I'm working with them. I'm volunteering with them to support their conference. So there's going to be some really amazing content in this conference as well. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. It's March 2nd through 4th, I think. And you can find out at mydogismyhome.org more about it.
And everybody, excuse me, this is Gloria. I just wanted to say that the acronym, the letters stand for the Human Animal Bond Research Institute.
Awesome. Thanks, Gloria. And thanks so much for sharing that, and Sarah for sharing as well. And I think one of the themes that we saw come up not only with this story about Jenny, but in Sarah's experience and the work Rachel's organization is doing too, is the fact that, you know, the bond between these people and these animals, and that people who don't have, you know, a traditional place in society, having that bond is so crucial to their survival and their well-being. Sarah, you also brought up a great point about being trauma informed and understanding that these folks, you know, have more going on than, I always think too of, like, when I get like hangry and I get real cranky and volatile, and these are people who, you know, have been dealing with this food insecurity for as long as they've been dealing with their housing insecurity, at least, if not longer, and how our interactions with them, we have to be mindful of what they're bringing to the table, being hungry, being tired, being constantly stressed out, not feeling safe, etc. Rachel, do you have anything you want to talk a little bit about that, about the, you know, the kind of empathy and trauma-informed approach and open-mindedness you have to bring to these situations?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think it's just realizing that, I mean, they are humans too. Well, the humans are humans too, and their pets are their family. I mean, it's just, it's kind of like you said earlier, just realizing that your situation is not their situation, and they may have not chosen their situation to be homeless. But their pets don't just provide that emotional support. It provides something that it kind of is surprising, that it provides normalcy to them. I mean, you wake up, you walk the dog, or you feed the dog or the cat, you change their litter box. It gives them something to strive for. It gives them a schedule. It gives them a regular interaction with another being, in addition to the protection, particularly with having dogs. A lot of the dogs we see, I mean, I've seen various breeds, but a lot of them are larger dogs. And I think that just automatically, with the stigma against, particularly with pit bulls and, those type of dogs, and those are a lot of the dogs that we see, is something that, is seen, but the dogs are the sweetest dogs I could meet. I mean, and they're outside. So that's a big stigma, is they see somebody with a pit walking outside, and that's just an automatic flash in some heads. So it's just realizing that I can't understand their situation. I've never been in their situation. But just having an open mind and open heart to what they're going through. And I think that's something that we're trying to get around the world around, is not just with us and our community, but with landlords. Because a lot of the problem is we'll get these clients connected to these housing resources, but then a lot of the landlords with vouchers don't accept pets, like at all, cats, dogs, no breed restrictions or anything. So we're just trying to get the word out, to try and eventually change a landlord's mind. Maybe that person can get housed, because why would a client want to be housed if they can't bring their pet with them? So
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up the idea of animals as protection, because I think that's another thing that I know when I started in animal welfare was like one of those red flags, where if someone said they wanted a dog for protection, and obviously there's a huge difference between chaining a dog up and not giving that dog any enrichment, and, keeping the dog hungry, and what we think of when we think of like junkyard dogs or like those type of dogs, versus you're someone who's vulnerable because of your size or your race or your sexual identity or your background, any of these factors. Having a larger dog with you can provide that safety, in addition to all those things you mentioned, having a reason to get up, having something to care for. And I mean, for the past, 18 months, we've all been going through COVID, and I'm sure we've all been feeling that listlessness where, not to be dramatic and be like, I have nothing to get out of bed for today. But you get that, right? Where it's the same day over and over again. And having our animals, I know, has helped a lot of us. So why wouldn't we give that to other humans, right? Like you said, we're all humans. We're all deserving of this love and these services.
yeah, and I think, in addition to the protection in the comfort of having the animal, it's starting one thing that, I'm sure a lot of other communities that are working with this is now it's November, it's a winter shelter. They provide the basic need of warmth. I love snuggling with my cat in my bed in the warmth. She loves snuggling with me when it gets cold outside. Them snuggling with their dog when it gets cold outside, it provides warmth to them, and it meets that need when winter gets here.
And same with the person, right? Like you said, like obviously your kitty in the background is very much happy to be your shoulder kitty, right? And they need that warmth as well. Gina did share in the chat a link that might be helpful for you, Rachael, about helping get landlords on board with animals. And then Sarah also mentioned emotional support animals as a way to have landlords allow, and I know that can vary by location. And then Melina brings up the great point that even her 8-pound disabled Chihuahua gives her security, knowing that he will alert her. And, you know, I'm sure that you give him security too. So again, it's that reciprocal relationship. I did see too, I wanted to go back in the chat. Lauren, hi Lauren, you mentioned your organization has a behavioral training program that's part of Pets for Life. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We actually launched it we have been developing it through 2019 and launched it in January of 2020. It's called the Community Canine Coaching Program. And it is an intake prevention effort and family, keeping families with their pets. And it was launched for several reasons: to increase our impact generally as a very small foster-based rescue, but also as intake prevention, since owner surrenders are becoming an increasing issue in our region, but also we just feel very passionately about responsible and sustainable pet ownership and the human-animal bond being for everybody, and pet ownership being equitable and accessible for everybody. And we just note that behavioral training is not affordable and accessible. And that is something that we had kind of locked down as part of our foster program. And there were already several organizations in town kind of meeting the need for the kind of other resources, including us, like the medical care and vaccines and food. So we wanted to kind of meet that need. Like even group classes are expensive. And if you needed a private trainer, that, there's just nothing about it that's affordable. So we wanted to launch something where even if you're kind of have a typical lifestyle or are kind of moderate income, where it would be low cost. So comparatively, at least. So our 4-week in-person training classes are $100, and those offset the cost for any students and their pets that are referred by our partner organization. So we're partnering with 3 or 4 human service organizations in town that are serving underserved populations. So one works with more refugee populations in town. One is working with the Pets for Life program. So they're serving people who are in very particular zip codes and or in homeless encampments. One is a domestic violence shelter that has just opened and is working with women and has a specific dedicated shelter for pets as well. So we're going to them with the class. And the other is actually Metro Animal Control specifically. So those are kind of the 4 partnerships we've established to offer the training at no cost. And, those are allowing us to kind of make sure we get the training to pet owners who would not otherwise be able to afford it. And otherwise it's open to anybody who can, and they pay. And we also, there are, any individual who is not able to pay can apply for financial assistance as well. So that's how we're making, trying to address common behavioral issues that would perhaps lead to owner surrenders and make it more accessible and affordable. But, particularly with the very, very underserved populations, there are things about it that we're still trying to figure out, trying to get the training taken to them rather than have them come to us. Transportation, particularly with your pets, is a problem that we have not yet solved, because even if we pay for it, which we would be glad to do, funds permitting, public transportation, Ubers, things like that, they don't allow pets. So that is something that, we've really got to come around, and making sure, depending on where we're offering the training, making sure that they have their vaccinations, because wherever we're having it, they still need to have them. So the Pets for Life program is great. They make sure that they have them, but we need the funds to make sure that they're paid for. So thankfully, it's been super well received, really popular. Every class is full, and funders have been really, really excited about it as well. But, you know, the need is there, which is good to know.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing, Lauren.
The
question
it's growing kind of faster than we can
keep up with it.
Which that's okay. We'll figure that out. But it's been great, and we're so excited about it.
And the
that's
question
kind of
I was gonna
part of why
ask,
we're here. This is kind of the program that we
great.
brought to the challenge.
And I was going to ask if you had partnerships with organizations like Rachel's, where it was the human service focus, but you already answered that and said
Absolutely, that's like the main way that we're kind of getting it to the target populations. And the kind of next step for us is, I think, we really want to translate our training materials into other languages so that we can offer the classes to other populations as well and better serve them.
That is great. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Again, I think that, again, the intersectionality and the overlap of the human services and the animal services, it's really great to see you all working together. So thanks for sharing. Wendy, or Allison, I just wanted to check in with you. Jorge was not able to get on the call, right?
He was briefly here, but he had problems with his audio.
Okay, I didn't want to take any time away from him if he was on the call, but it sounds like he's not, so we can keep going with the questions.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. There was a question back here from Donna Brown. I think this was for you, Rachel. Will the food banks give food? Okay, so like, I think, Rachel, when you were talking earlier, you were talking about how your organization works specifically with people who don't have the government definition of homeless, right? Like they're on the street, in an abandoned building, in a car, not in a secured housing. Does your organization, or if know of any other organizations, work with giving food to folks who may need food but have access to secure housing?
So, yeah, I mean, there are several food pantries around the area. I know that Guilford County Animal, and I'm sure Jorge could talk a little bit more about this. I think they work with Meals on Wheels to get food to, older residents who aren't able to leave their housing. So I do know that there are other organizations. Our programs are just strictly focused towards those who don't have any stable housing.
Thank you. And I know that some of the other shelters too, and Donna, this might be a good question for the forum, but we've definitely seen folks last year during COVID who really expanded or partnered with pet food pantries to do pet food as well. So I think that there were folks who were partnering with their local food banks to give out pet food too. It's great. Oh, cool. And so, Lauren, I don't know if you saw this, but Melina shared translation information, so you two can connect on that. Oh, this is great.
Thank you. I'll shoot her an email for sure. Thank you so much.
Perfect. And then there's a little bit of chat going back to the emotional support animals. So Sarah brought up the point that they're federally protected and their treatment is not state or locally dependent. And then Irene shared a registry. So thank you both for that. That will be helpful with folks who are looking for help with the landlord problems or with their, getting animals into housing with their people. That is great. Oh, awesome. And then there's this is like a whole other huddle that we should have had about emotional support animals. So maybe that'll be next time. We are getting close to our time limit. So I did just want to give the floor back to Rachel. Rachel, if you had anything else you wanted to say, thank you again for sharing.
No, I don't. If any of y'all have any questions or anything, I'm going to real quick. I'll put it in the on the online side as well. I'll give you guys our contact information because again, I'm only like I got roped in with street outreach with my job. But I'll give y'all the emails directly to our street outreach in case y'all want to reach out to them directly and talk with them directly about it or anything.
Great, thank you. And thank you for joining us on the forum too, Rachel, and really appreciate you being here. We're bummed that we didn't have Jorge, but I still think this was a great conversation and hopefully everyone who joined got a ton out of it. Thank you for everyone who joined us today who wasn't expecting to speak, but shared about your experiences and the great things your organizations are doing. Gina, do you have anything you want to say for our last huddle?
No, I'm just sad that it's over. It feels like we just started. And I wish there were more opportunities to just chat about things that take us other places. So don't forget to go to the forum. I know a lot of you have good information to share. Nice to have met you all virtually, and good luck on the challenge.
And Gina, if you want to meet like next Tuesday at 10, I'm totally down. We can have like an open, chat hour, coffee hour with Gina and Amber if you want. Wendy and Allison can join us too. Yeah, we can have a happy hour, coffee hour, whatever we're into. Well, all right. Well, then I just again want to thank you, Rachel, for joining us. Thank you, Gina, for joining us on all these huddles. Wendy, Allison, and the entire Maddie's Fun team, thank you for all the background support and everything you have done. I know Sharon is on this call too. So Sharon, thank you for everything you've done to promote these huddles, and Brittany and Craig, if you're on the call as well. And thank you all for all you do. We couldn't do any of this without you. So please continue to take good care of yourself, be kind to each other and to yourselves, and keep up that great work you're doing for the pets and people in your communities. I'll miss you on the cuddles too, but have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you soon.